So one thing I like to do when I start painting in my art journal, this is a Stillman and Byrne Epsilon series, and I am using Lyra graphite water soluble. And I can just get in here and get this really, I'm just going to do this one side of this piece here. I'm going to get in here with some dark marks. And I can just get all this energy out. And if I dip it in water, it makes it darker and wet and really fun marks to make there. And I'm going to come in here. Do you have questions? See, that's the fun thing about this is you can ask me questions while I'm painting. I am tell you all my very favorite supplies. And I'm just going to come in here. We're going to get some muted colors because that black is going to mute this down, and that's okay. Gives us something a little earthy maybe. And maybe I'm going to mix a little bit of this green with a little bit of the coral color, and we get this nice earthy green. It's that opposite of the color wheel is what's going to give you earthy muted colors that are really beautiful. And here we go. A little bit of, I'm not even sure what I'm making here. I guess I'm making a few little wild flowers here. And if I want to mute down this red, I can still use some green, and that'll make it just a little more earthy red, kind of a more of a maroon if you add in a little bit, maybe a darker color. Just kind of gives it a, you know, a muted, different kind of feel. Gives you all your range of values too, which is really important when you're painting. And I don't have a preconceived notion. I'm just allowing myself to paint, allowing it to kind of be electric. That's the word I was using earlier. That's the moment that you tap into your muse and you're like, ooh, I'm onto something, and that's a lot of fun. And I kind of want a little bit darker green. So I'm adding a little bit of this over here, give myself a little bit darker, but not too much because otherwise it's going to look so obviously red and green and Christmassy. And that wasn't my goal either, but a few marks. And while it's wet, I'm going to take a green oil pastel and we're going to add some more marks. And this is just kind of like a really crazy cool technique I learned. And that just kind of gives us a little more. Now, I want to come in with a little bit of this yellow here, but I feel like that yellow is really bright. So let's make it like a warm yellow. Mixing up these colors kind of on the fly, like maybe more of a yellowy. I wanted a yellow sky here instead of a blue sky. That kind of just changes up the feel of everything, right? Add a little more down here so it kind of pulls it all together. But I'm not going to go without blue completely here. This is kind of blocking that view. I think I can keep it. There we go. What do you think? It's kind of a wild piece so far. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just having fun with it. Isn't that what I usually say? Just have fun with it, right? And then I can use my oil pastel to kind of define fun rough edges. Now you can see a little bit about my process, a little behind the scenes of how I like to make my work. And this is just my art journal. I try to keep things very fresh in my art journal because I don't want to overthink things. This is my place to play, you know? So I don't want to let any inhibitions hold me back from just exploring. So if it's not perfect, I'm okay with that. And I want you to think that way too when you're creating. Give yourself a place where you can just play and paint, whatever is the medium that you want to do, whatever you want to play with. But give yourself some permission to just play and explore what the possibilities are. And that's what I'm doing here. Maybe I want a little bit of blue in the sky after all. But you know what I really like is adding more white. Always more white. See how that kind of blends the sky into almost like it's a hot summer day. The end of summer, fall, into fall, right? That's a good goal. Kind of mute that down a little bit there. And I'm going to get a little more white into a few places. I'm going to hold my brush back a little so I can kind of get in here and get some marks going. Some scribbly marks. I like it when I can get in here and just do a few scribbly things. All right, so now you see. It's a little of my art journaling art process. A little wild and carefree and a few scribbly marks, and we've got ourselves a hot mess of a garden, but I'm kind of satisfied with making this kind of fun and playful, crazy free piece for you today. What do you think? A little wild? A little different? Bringing a little light into this just to make sure This is one thing that caught my eye that could be improved, is a little light in these, whatever kind of flowers they are.